It was a rainy night, and I was driving home after my shift at the late-night diner where I worked. The shift had been quiet, but I still had an unusual amount of energy, so I knew I'd need to take a melatonin when I got home. My usual route was a scenic road during the day, but at night it was pitch black, with only the occasional light post illuminating small parking lots dotted with family-owned restaurants and shops. The rest of the road was surrounded by dense forest. As I passed one of these parking lots near a well-known deli, I noticed a woman standing under a light post in the rain, waving her arm to flag me down. I slowed down and saw that she was an older woman, maybe in her mid-50s, tall, around 5 feet 11 inches or 6 foot, and very thin. I rolled down my window and called out, "Do you need a ride?" She hurried over, thanking me profusely and calling me a hero. She said she was heading just up the road to town. Despite her soaking wet clothes dripping water all over my car, I couldn't leave another woman stranded in the cold rain. I like to think of myself as a good person, though I'd never pick up a random man. That would be a different story. The woman seemed sweet, but as we talked, I noticed she was missing a few teeth, which was unsettling. I wondered if she was homeless, though she didn't smell or look like it. The rain might have masked any signs, and her wet hair, usually scraggly, was now weighed down and straightened by the water. Still, she smiled the whole time and didn't seem threatening. We reached an intersection with a gas station on one corner, and I pulled in to fill up. I asked if she wanted anything from inside, feeling like I was doing my good deed for the week. She declined, so I went inside to pay for gas and grabbed some spiked seltzers for the weekend. When I returned to my car, she was gone. I glanced around the small gas station lot but saw no sign of her. She must have run off somewhere. Part of me felt bad, thinking she was a lost, helpless woman, but another part felt relieved. I filled up my SUV and headed home. My apartment was on the first floor of a two-family house, with a tenant upstairs. The front door into the foyer was usually left unlocked, but the doors to each apartment were locked. I let myself in, set the seltzers on the counter, and took a melatonin, hoping to sleep. But even with the pill, I couldn't shake the thoughts about the woman I'd picked up. At one point, I heard faint sounds outside my bedroom but dismissed them as noise from the tenant upstairs. I wish I'd been more suspicious. I woke up in the dark, which was unusual since melatonin usually knocked me out. I sat up, feeling drowsy and thirsty, and reached for my water on the bedside table. That's when I saw and heard something across the room. Someone was crouched in the corner behind my dresser, legs folded. I shook my head, slapped myself, and made strange noises, convinced I was hallucinating. But then the figure stood up and walked out of the room. I didn't scream or say a word. I was in shock. What made me question my sanity even more was the complete silence after the figure left. No footsteps, no door closing, nothing. I grabbed my phone and called my dad, who answered groggily. I told him what had happened, and he said it was probably a night terror. I stayed on the phone with him as I turned on the lights and searched the apartment. No one was there. I started to believe I'd hallucinated, but I still locked my bedroom door that night. The next morning, I woke up, had coffee, and got ready for the gym. When I opened the door to the foyer, I realized it was already unlocked. My heart sank. What I'd seen the night before, was it real? I checked the apartment again, confirming no one was inside. Then I went to my car and opened the back door to put my gym bag in. That's when I noticed damp, yellowish-brown stains on the floor and my blanket missing. I wanted to cry or scream. It hit me. The woman must have snuck into the back seat while I was in the gas station. She either unlocked my apartment door or I'd left it unlocked by mistake. I called my dad again, frantic, and he told me to check if anything was stolen. If not, calling the police wouldn't do much. I searched the house and found nothing missing except the blanket from my car. I skipped the gym that day and stayed holed up in my apartment, genuinely disturbed. I didn't want to live there much longer after that, and within a month, I found a new place. A few months ago, I agreed to go to a house party with my friend Michael during our first year of high school, even though I wasn't invited. Michael had pulled some strings, and I figured it would be fun. Knowing I couldn't drive, I went with him. When we arrived late at night, Michael told me to leave my phone in the car, saying I might lose it or someone could take it. I was confused but nodded and left it behind. The party was in the backyard, with people smoking, drinking, and possibly doing drugs in small groups. Michael encouraged me to mingle, and after a few hours, I realized I'd had way too much to drink. My vision was foggy, and I leaned against the wall for support. I checked my watch. It was either midnight or 1 a.m. I knew it was time to leave, but when I looked for Michael, he was nowhere to be found. I asked a few people, but no one had seen him. I cursed myself for leaving my phone in his car. I decided to walk home since my house wasn't far, but the night was chilly. I thought about asking someone for a ride, but I didn't know anyone well enough. So, I started walking, stumbling down the street, feeling lightheaded and dizzy. I cursed myself for drinking so much and for listening to Michael's idiotic idea. I stopped on the side of the road, crossed my arms to keep warm, and remembered hitchhiking. I stuck out my thumb, hoping someone would stop. A few cars passed, but no one stopped. Then a gray truck pulled over, and an older man with a beard asked if I needed a ride. I told him where I lived and got in, grateful for the help. As we drove, he tried to make small talk, but I was too disoriented to respond clearly. When we passed my house, I told him we'd gone too far, but he kept driving. I felt uneasy but was too drunk to act. Then he turned to me with a sinister look and said, "You know, you shouldn't be drunk while hitchhiking. You make an easy target." He reached over and started rubbing my leg. Before he could do anything else, a police siren blared behind us. The man panicked and unlocked the doors, allowing me to jump out. I ran to the police officer, who told me he was looking for someone in a gray truck who had stolen from a store. I wasn't sure if it was the same man, but I was relieved. The officer gave me a ride home, and I vowed never to get that drunk again. In college, I attended a frat party with my friends Deanna and Kayla. We pre-gamed heavily at our house and took an Uber to the party. By the time we arrived, I was borderline blacked out. I vaguely remember the DJ, beer pong, and talking to a random frat guy. But after that, my memory is blank. I woke up on the side of the road in a wooded area, my head throbbing and my phone missing. I walked to a light post and waited for help. Eventually, a car stopped, and the driver offered me a ride. I got in, grateful, but soon realized something was off. The man kept staring at me, and when he asked what color underwear I was wearing and put his hand on my knee, I knew I had to get out. I opened the door and ran into the woods, hiding until he drove away. Another car eventually stopped, and this driver took me home safely. My friends were waiting for me, worried. I cut back on drinking after that and never hitchhiked again. Years ago, I was hitchhiking from Germany to Paris when a French man offered me a ride. He was unshaven and dirty, but I accepted. As we drove, he showed me 4 passports, each belonging to a girlfriend who had died under mysterious circumstances. I felt uneasy, especially when he took a shortcut through a dark forest. He stopped speaking English, and the tension grew. I kept my hand on the door handle, ready to run. Eventually, we emerged from the woods, and he dropped me off at the highway. Years later, I discovered he was a serial killer. I often wonder if I could have stopped him if I'd gone to the police.